welcome to episode 110 of the Wheatley podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in on YouTube or podcast platforms, wherever you might be doing it. We appreciate it. Obviously, all your support is very much welcomed. Thank you very much to Indra Davis, who came on last week to talk about her life in professional MMA, to do with jiu-jitsu, women coming into self-defense, is increasing in numbers in that, and how she's getting used to the coaching side of things, and also the youth support that she does, which is brilliant. I got to meet her just the Saturday gone at a jiu-jitsu competition where she won a medal. So fair play to Indra. Thank you very much. We'll get into our episode this week with singer, musician and songwriter Mickey Joe Harte. How are you doing, Mickey Joe?
Very good, Derek. Thanks for having me. And sorry it's taken a little while, I know. We've been over and back trying to get it started, but I see you've got 110 so far. Is that right? So
yeah,
you're doing brilliant.
Thanks very much.
That's excellent. That's a great level of stamina on your behalf.
Well. Listen, I want to say, Mickey Joe, though, it's all to do with the guests, and it's something that I was thinking about this today. Actually, it's something that I wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago, in the sense of anxiety and things like that. And when we switched over to Zoom, it became another challenge, with what went on the last couple of years, and we switched over. And even having yourself on, someone who I've seen for the last 20 years, it's another challenge for me. And the anxiety, I wouldn't say I was anxious, but I was a little bit nervous about this. But it was great to have a little chat with you beforehand to kind of relax and see you in, I guess, like in real life, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, that's no biggie. I'm thrilled. I'm always it's always nice to be asked. There aren't always I'm not always I don't know, I never quite know what to do on these. Just have a bit of fun and relax, and so I admire you for being able to do this sort of continuously and have that dogged approach where you're going to do it, on a regular basis, be it every week or whatever, you're doing. So it's because it's a challenge, because I know I did some the first lockdown, I did a lot of Facebook lives, at 12:30 every day, this MJ live thing, and I sort of overkill. I think I'd done Monday to Friday every day for a little half hour or whatever, but it was just that time where people needed a bit of company and stuff, and I thought, well, I'll just go hell for leather for it now whenever things open again. But it was very difficult to keep that level and try and find new material every day as well, and something sort of bring something new to. So I'm in awe of you. You're on 110 editions or something, so fantastic. It's really, really good. It's a good portal for people to be able to tune in and get and help with the issues that you're passionate about. So fair play, well done.
Well, thank you very much, Mickey Joe. We always start with a short history of your upbringing, please, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, I was born in Lifford Hospital in County Donegal, and I grew up about 150 meters from Lifford Hospital on the main street in Lifford. So that was my introduction to life. Lifford, I grew up, fantastic community when I was young. A lot of brilliant memories, brilliant festivals we used to have in the summer, but very difficult sort of history with Lifford. It's right on the border with Strabane, with Tyrone, and there was I remember very vividly the Troubles, and we were in the middle of them. And I remember the riots on the Lifford Bridge and things in the 1980s, and the hitch blocks and the hunger strikes and all those things that went on with it. But it's amazing. Although we were in the middle of this thing, we were on the if you may say, the other side of the border, so we escaped the presence of the soldiers in the army there all the time. So we were able to get away from that a wee bit, but we had a great community, sense of community. I don't remember it being, I remember things happening, very tragic things, and they would, shock you for a bit, but it didn't seem to affect, childhood. Looking back now, it did, obviously, but without getting too deep into this with you, but looking back now, it seems surreal now. When I look back, I think that we thought that was normal things, that because there was a sense of normality to it all, that all this sort of bombing and killing and disruption that was going on around us. But I still managed to have a brilliant childhood, and we managed to have a great community in Lifford, great festivals and great. Maybe that was why, because I think people maybe needed that, as well, not so much nowadays, but so there was, I was very lucky. They say it takes a village to rear a child, or whatever it is, and honestly, I can there's so many people that were very good to me, and when I was growing up in Edinburgh, I put my head above the porthole, sort of said, well, I want to sing a bit, I want to be a musician, go out and be on stage. And for every one person that gave me a hard knock, there was 10 that put their hand on their backs, or just give me support, a lot of support, and people would come and bring me to competitions from the house, and people that were just thought I was good at it, and done things that went way out of their way for me, just because they could see that I had a bit of potential, and they probably wanted to nurture that and say, well, he's one of our own. So I grew up in a great community, and at the time, when you think of it, it was a difficult time for a lot of people around us, and they managed to build this, sense of community in our town, So
great.
That was Lifford.
Well, it's beautiful to hear that, because often we ask that question, and we talk about many different things. Some people have had a lot of struggles. Some people have had great support, like yourself. But to talk about a community and a village as being a big part of your upbringing, I think it's a really nice thing to hear. And I hope that, that's still a sense in certain places in Ireland, in villages and towns, where there is that kind of community and people helping each other out. Because you'd hate to think that something that was obviously so important to you would be lost.
Absolutely. And I find that maybe through the Celtic Tiger and things like that, we lost a sense of that. I certainly lost touch with my own hometown. The people in it, in terms of I seem to. Well, I was living in the town, so. But even when I went back, there was a different kind of vibe of it. I think with affluence, there comes that little bit of, if I can say, not so much, you don't so much need one another anymore, because you feel secure in your own thing, and you have your own job, and you have your own, you've got a good life, and you have your own nice house, and you have your own kid. So you feel sort of cocooned, and you feel secure. Whereas when you don't have that support structure, I think you look outwards as opposed to inwards. And that definitely changed, I think, in the Celtic Tiger, and the town suffered. And Lifford has always been in the shadow of Strabane and Tyrone, because it's a bigger town, a bigger shopping town and all that. But we always managed to sort of keep our own. But we lost a bit of a sense of identity at the town, and it's only now again that I think with COVID, to be honest, that the town is starting to. It's not what it used to be, but it's starting to find that sense of community again. I find there are people in there now very active in the town again. Just last year was the first year we got Christmas lights up again and things like that. So there's an active group of people there that were involved in Meals on Wheels and all those kind of things through COVID, and that has kind of spilled over now into a festival committee that are trying to get going again. So, but that was only really because of the COVID and all the things that have happened over the last number of years. It's out of that sort of traumatic time of COVID, there are really nice shoots and buds of positivity.
Yeah.
So hopefully that we can just build on that.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree 100%. Mickey Joe, when did you first become aware of mental health?
It's funny, I think. Well, the older you get, I suppose, and more in recent times, that I look back now at times where it was difficult. I found it very difficult. There's things very difficult in terms of success and the failures and the ups and downs of that, and good and the bad that comes with that. And I think now when I look back, there was a time that I was struggling with, certain things, but I never had the balls to, actually sit down with somebody and say, I'm having a difficult time with this, or, and there was so much always going on. I suppose I had a young family, and it was always, you're always aware that you have to just try and go out there and get, put the bread on the table, and that kept me going. I suppose in those times you have to get out of bed and do those things. But I look back at, there were times when I didn't want to get out of bed. Those days and stuff. But with great heights comes great dips, and that's the things with success. And I've been very lucky to be, I wouldn't ever want to change it, but the things that I've been fortunate enough to do. But with that comes great lows. Great highs bring great lows, and I suppose I was lucky, and I had good people around me that in one way or other kind of supported me, but I never sat down and said to somebody, geez, I'm having a bad day, I don't know, or I'm having and I suppose that it's only in the recent years really that mental health has become acceptable to sort of, I think, to talk about maybe among men, young men and men, and that whole sort of sign of weakness, which is total nonsense. But it certainly wasn't something that I think maybe it was something. My father struggled with alcohol when he was younger, a young man, managed to get sober and actually became a counselor himself in terms of helping people to become sober as well. So, and talking to my mum now, she thinks that he suffered a lot he might have suffered with depression, but he dealt with it. He was quite a quiet man anyway, but he volunteered a lot and other things and tried to, help people like that, because he knew probably came through it himself. But she thinks that, that was certainly a trait that he had, and maybe she didn't at that time. Now when we look back, she thinks he was definitely depressed, and he probably should have went and spoke to some, and helped him, because he was quite a quiet man and a deep kind of thinker in the end of, a deep kind of man. But he just, that's how he dealt with it. I suppose he dealt with it by helping others, and was able to, and got something out of it. But yeah, it's these things are never far away from anybody's family and life, but at the time it's like that. My father wouldn't have said, I'm struggling or I'm depressed or down. He would have just moseyed on. And so that was the way. It wasn't, you didn't put your hand up and say, I need help.
No, and it's like, it's still obviously very, very difficult for younger people, younger people and younger men, obviously, with the idea of it being a weakness. And I think for people to point out, people who are older, who can look back with like some sort of perspective and see, or at least share that it's not a weakness, it's something that's very valuable to talk about. And even speaking about your dad, that idea of him giving back is pretty special too, because that was obviously his way of doing it, or obviously dealing with it. And there's so many more ways today, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, it's at least I think there's places you can go nowadays, as well, if you're, I know there's always these questions about funding and there's never enough of it, obviously, but at least there are some options, they're available to people that certainly weren't around whenever, I was growing up, or when we were younger, father and those people. So, that's good. It's good for people, and that's like a good thing. It's something that I think we're still working through, but the stigma of it is dissipating somewhat, and hopefully that continues. We just have to continue doing that, but it's still a huge problem. It's just absolutely a problem for young men and women, but it's just a problem to confide in somebody, sort of saying, and once you sort of talk to somebody about it, it seems a lot better.
It does,
it's just that step is very hard to take. I remember my mum asked me once, because she had heard somebody on TV, a musician, talking about this. I'd gone through something similar to myself, and then I think she was maybe a little bit worried. It wasn't long after Eurostar and Eurovision, all those things. She said, "Are you okay? You okay?" And I just said, I probably wasn't, but I probably just went, "Yeah, I'm fine." But at least she asked. And I think it's the only time I ever remember anybody asking me, "Were you really are you okay with all that?" The only time I've never had anybody sort of say, "Do you need?" It's just and it's because there's a facade with music, I suppose, as well, and performing, and you're on stage and it always looks
it looks easy.
Side out,
of course.
Even for these, things you go and try and make yourself look respectable. That side out, you're always trying to at least tap into the positive side of your brain, or that it's a weird thing. You're kind of conditioned that way. I wouldn't go on these things half-hearted. You have to go, "Oh, geez, I better go and cheat and get myself ready for this evening." It's only a silly thing, but it's one of those things. It's just conditioned that way, so you're always, people can maybe look at you, You know, if you had seen me this morning in the shop getting a Milky Mist, so that boys, that guy needs a bit of help.
That's the thing, right? Because I want to talk to you about something like Eurostar, because at the time, you know, now we have so many different talent shows and different singing contests and stuff on television. But at the time, Eurostar was massive. There was a massive deal over here. I remember living in a house with three of my friends. And I had my girlfriend over, and there'd be a couple of other girlfriends there, and we'd all be watching it every week, regardless. You know, we were big musicians ourselves. We used to play in a band in the town here in Athlone, and we loved it. You know, and we really got into Eurostar. What was it that? Why you saw a poster, you saw an advert for it? Why did you think, well, I'm going to go for that?
Well, first of all, I better say hello to all my cousins in Athlone, all the Tolans, who are Lifford originally, but are now down there, moved off. But so hello to everybody down there. I know it goes farther away, but if you're at Athlone,
no, thank you. Hello to them, of course.
Good stuff. Hello all the gang. Sorry, your question was about Eurostar.
Yeah, why did you? What made you decide to do it?
Why did I decide to do it? Really what happened was I had decided not to do any competitions like that. Okay. And then I kind of made a conscious decision. I'd been in Nashville for a while. I came back. I was out gigging, writing songs and stuff. And I met a guy out there. We had traveled together actually, and he was setting up an agency, or had set up an agency here. Very young man. He became my manager. He sort of said, I really like what you're doing, your songs, your own stuff. And when we came back, I recorded an EP, and I had all that ready to go, and everything, the artwork, the whole lot was ready to release. We were just kind of getting some people involved and trying to get some interest to get it released. And then my mum actually sort of rang me one day. My aunt rang her sister and said, oh, there's a competition going on, it's a big deal, and they're in Derry today or something. It was like a Sunday. And then my wife said to me, oh, your mum rang and you better go to Derry to do this audition. I said, no, I don't want to go. And she said, and then she rang again, and she said, could you go down? And then I went down out of curiosity, because I realized that Louis Walsh and Phil Coulter and Darren Smith, who was head of EMI at the time, and people like that were involved. And I thought, well, wow, okay, I'll go down and see. Maybe if I, get on TV and get a bit of exposure, I'll get, get maybe a label involved, interested or something. That was my only. I kind of went down, and I just kept getting. I got through the first day. I had a gig that night. I was in Derry. And I was playing in Glenties. I was doing a solo. I was playing solo a lot of gigs at the time. My band had broke up a few years before, and I was doing a lot of solo stuff. Hence having the manager and the new EP and my own original stuff and all that kind of stuff I was going for. And I remember leaving, and the guy said, you have to go back tomorrow. And she said, okay, no problem, but I have to get the Glenties for the gig. So I remember getting in the car in Derry. The Glenties is a right trip,
Yeah.
So, but in an hour and a half or something, I can't remember, but I went off and came back, and I just kept getting through. But that was why I went to do it. It was kind of out of curiosity. I didn't know it had anything to do with the Eurovision. And my recollection is a bit different, I think, or maybe I don't recall it properly, but I remember chatting to Simon Casey, who's in the final with me. He's a really good friend, obviously, we still be in touch, and I don't remember it ever being advertised that the winner would represent Ireland in Eurovision.
Okay. That
was something I'd never aspired to, in terms of that. But I think halfway through the competition, to me, that's when it was introduced, because I think the program had taken such a momentum in the country that the powers in RT or whoever thought, well, whoever wins this would be a great way of, would be a good idea to send that person to Eurovision for us, because they're going to have the country sort of already behind them.
Of course.
It was a good. So that's how I remember it happening. So I think that's how it happened. And I ended up obviously just getting through every week, and the momentum of Eurostar just took its own life, I suppose.
Yeah.
And, it just became a huge phenomenon in the country, and then after that, I had to go and do the Eurovision thing 6 weeks after winning that. So it was all,
It was such a whirlwind, I would imagine, for yourself. I remember yourself and Simon Casey, obviously, were, like you said, were in the final, and I'm pretty sure Simon was going to college here in Athlone at the time, or he was from around. He was, yeah. And I remember seeing on TV, because you used to have to do the thing where you went to your hometown and things like that, and there'd be people outside the cars and all. What I wanted, and I suppose you kind of touched on this a little bit, but like, how is that on somebody mentally when they are all of a sudden known by everyone? And was that difficult for you? Did you find it? Did you settle into it quite well? I suppose it depends, obviously, on the person, you know. But for you, how was that?
You know, it's funny because I just rolled with it. I didn't really, I mean, I was 20, 28, 27, 28. I've been and I've been gigging since I was like, literally since I was 15. I was sort of in the pub, the clubs and doing all those kind of things. So I had a bit of experience under my belt in terms of competitions and, you know, being up and doing different performances and doing a bit of TV and stuff over the years, but nothing, you know, substantial like that. But I wasn't, it was what I wanted to do. It wasn't something that, you know, I see a lot of young kids going into these competitions now, 16, 17, and I don't really know if that's really what they want to do. But by the time I was 20, I really knew that, like, I had already established, I suppose, I was making my living out of music, you know, out doing all the gigs in whatever way I could do it. Be it a kind of a tumultuous kind of living sometimes, or a bit of, you know, a roller coaster, you know, you never quite know. How the month's gonna go, but I was carving a living out of it, you know. And so I had that experience, and I think that helped me, because when I got to that point, I just went, well, whatever I get here is extra, you know, it's a bonus, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of going to bring me to another little level, a bit of level, you know, and hopefully it'll get me, you know, maybe I'll be able to it'll get me more gigs. I might be able to get a bit more exposure, maybe get a record deal, or that was kind of like what it was about for me. So. But then it kind of took us by surprise, I think, all of us, the way that the country reacted to it. You know, it would be, I always tell the story that I remember the first time that I got through in my heat, whatever it was, and I remember trying to drum up a bit of support locally, sort of within, you know, the Donegal Democrat and these places. And I remember ringing one of the papers, and they were saying, so what's this competition called again? And they were asking me, and I was saying, well, it's a thing called Eurostar, and I had to go through the whole thing, and the guy was writing it all down. And I remember, I think I got a little piece in, like, you know, page 15 of, you know, the Democrat or something, you know. And then, I mean, fast forward to, you know, 6 weeks, 2 months later, or whatever it was, when it was all rolled. And I mean, if you switched off your phone, you switch it back on, there'd be 100 missed calls from, you know, everybody, and wanting to talk to you about it, you know, TV journalists and local people, obviously, you know, that kind of local press and national press. So it went completely berserk in, like, space of, it was, you know, trying to get a bit of exposure, you know, a couple of months previous to just get the thing going, and then bang, it was like you were kind of like deciding, Jesus, well, I talked to this person, well, I know I'd be better to hold off of that. We were trying to make a strategy then of, you know what I mean, like, and so that's how it rolled. It just went, you know, to the stratosphere, and sort of, you know,
it was quick.
Fast, overnight, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's I when I contacted you contacted the agency, and I was speaking to a few people afterwards, saying, I'm trying to get Mickey Joe Harte on. I think it'd be, you know, great chat about what he's doing, what he's done. And everybody sings straight away, We've Got the World Tonight. I mean, it's just you're synonymous with that song. There's no way around that. But I want to ask, like, when you first heard it, what did you think of it?
Oh, when I first heard it, I didn't like it. I thought that I didn't like it. I just didn't think it was for me. You know, I didn't think it was a good fit, and I had real issues with it. And I was very fortunate, and so far as that, I sort of threw the toys out of the pram a little bit. And I would, you know, I was going back to the producers saying, no, this song isn't for me. You know, I'm a songwriter. I can write a song. You know, I've got loads of songs. And they were very specific about, you know, the songs, you know, and so that was something that they weren't prepared to negotiate with, let's say, like that. And then, so I sort of had to make a decision, because the only decision to make was either, you know, do the song or leave the competition. And I sort of said, well, okay, I'll give it a chance. But I have a friend in Dublin, a guy called Francie Conway, who taught me in the rock school in Ballyfermot. I spent a year there studying music. And he's a great old buddy of mine now, you know, nowadays. At that time, he was the songwriting coach. And I went there, and there was a guy called Matt White, who's a producer, who he would have worked on White Ladder and things like that. Francie, he was over David Gray and stuff, and he was over with Francie at the time, and the two lads were there, and I think I was freaking out, you know, and Francie said, "Oh, come up to the house." So I brought the song and myself up to the house, and we had dinner, and he sat down, he said, "Okay, put it on," and he said, yeah, I know, I can understand, you know, you're not, it's not really your thing, but okay, let's see. And they kind of found an approach for me. It's funny, and it was a great lesson for me to, you know, they're saying, okay, take a breath, stand back, take this line, and, you know, do your thing with the guitar, the way you'd move into the mic and come back, you know, because he knew me inside out, and he knew me pretty well as a performer. But and after that night, I get up the next morning, and I had a whole new outlook on the song and a whole new approach to it. It was a great lesson, you know. It was just well, that was the time I did ask for help. There you go.
Yeah.
I put my hands up. It was a different way of I suppose expression of mental health, that I needed some mental. But yeah, so and then I was okay with the song, but it just took me that little bit of time to get. But at the time, I didn't think it was a good fit. I was kind of like I thought it was too pop for me and all those kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
Was, you know.
I can kind of see what you mean by the pop thing, but I actually like the song, and you know, it's I think, listen, this is just my opinion, obviously, but I think it's the last time that RT took Eurovision seriously. I think it was the last effort they made to win it. Now, obviously, with Eurostar, they picked the people that they thought were talented, and then the votes went through, and you went. But the song, like I said, the song is a Eurovision song of the older sense, not of the newer Eurovision, which is just bonkers. Yeah. But back then, it was very much a song contest. And I think that, like I say, it had a very good song, very good melody. It had a nice hook. It had like the key change towards the end. There was everything in it that kind of spoke to that kind of Eurovision, you know, quality to it. And I don't know, I was watching your performance again the other day, and I can't imagine what your nerves were, because you knew what you were going out in front of. Like, forget about the room that you were in, just the worldwide audience. How was it? Like, how was that stepping up on stage in such a big, you know, event?
I suppose it would have been totally daunting, I think, if it hadn't been for Eurostar, because by the time Eurovision came around, we had spent, I don't know, 6 months basically in front of a camera, and Eurostar, you know, from because Eurostar started in 2002, the heats and all those kind of things, you know, and ran into April 2003 sort of thing, you know. So it ran for, I don't know, it ran, you know, the heats of it, and then the main program, I think, kicked in January, like through April or something like that. But anyway, you know, I had a long time, so that sort of incubation period, I think, of Eurostar was hugely helpful to me when I went to Eurovision, because the fact that there was cameras following me around all week, or it was like second nature at that stage, because we were so programmed into doing that every week on Eurostar, because there was live shows on a Sunday night, and on a Monday morning you got a new song or new songs, or you had to have new material, so you were all the time, and the cameras, basically there was a camera crew following you all week. Although you only see little clips of it then on the show. I mean, we had a camera crew, the amount of footage that they shot was incredible. You know, obviously, and then they go sit down, they edit it all, they take little bits, and but that, so, you know, it didn't faze me so much. But as a production, Eurovision is the best production I've ever been on in terms of like technical stuff, and seeing it all come together. It's just a huge experience, and a huge production, huge standard of professionalism that I'd never seen before, even in RTE and places like that, or you know, in different studios where you'd be, you know, very good professional people in all of those places. Of course, but just brings it to a different level, and just things like, you know, doing a full dress rehearsal that whole day, and that they would record the full show during the day, and then that would run simultaneously with the live show. Should the live show break down, or should the link break at any stage, they could cut to the one that they've got there. Things like that, which is quite, you know, it's quite bizarre, and whatever, a 3-hour show or something. But big, huge production. So, but I suppose to answer your question is that it wasn't that I wasn't nervous. And I look back at that performance, and I don't. I have different visions of it. One thing was, they put so much makeup on my eyes that halfway through the performance, when I started to sweat, my eyes started to sting so badly, it became painful. I remember thinking, Jesus, thank God this is only a 3-minute song. You know, I only have another minute and a half of this burning sensation in my eyes. It's weird, whatever kind of stuff that was on. It was bizarre, kind of little things like that. And I just feel that I probably could have done a better performance, overall at that.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't nail it as well as I could. That's just a personal thing,
Yeah, and of course we're our own worst critic as well, and that's a a thing. My friend wanted to know if you still have the green guitar.
Yeah, I have. My daughter's playing it. I do have it somewhere, but it's a nice guitar. It's quite a small body, so it's made the Emerald, or the company. They just they're very close to me from home. They're only a few miles out the road.
Right.
And they stopped making guitars for a little while after my guitar, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Serious, I think it was just the economy bust, all that kind of stuff. So but they're back making great guitar and better guitars now than they ever did as well. Yeah. So they've got a great company out there. They're allowing, I think, 20 people or something at the minute. 25.
Brilliant. It's a beautiful, it is a beautiful guitar.
Yeah, it's great. And it's a small build, so it's nice to learn on, or for somebody that's learning, or
Yeah.
So she's playing it a lot at the minute. And I take it back for some of the gigs as well.
Good, yeah, good. Listen, Mick Joe, if you don't mind me just reading an advert out, and we'll just get back to it. I'm contractually obliged, apparently, to do this. So if you wouldn't mind. Okay, Fusion Training Centre. So I'm even wearing the top to promote it. Yeah. Fusion Training Centre, Monksland Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts, and CrossFit. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Centre, or join in for a chat. That's bad. Fusion Training Centre, train like a warrior. I won't edit that either, because I don't really know how to edit, Mickey Joe, to be honest with you. Who are you? I will say, I will ask, who were your musical influences growing up?
Oh God, there's so many of them. But I suppose. I mean, my brother would be, if I have to say, he probably was my biggest musical influence, as far as that. He loved music, and he played guitar, and he sang, and he wrote songs, and he done all those things, sort of. So, and he always had friends, fellas in bands, and floating about the house. And and his music was like the Police and AC/DC and all these bands. And then he loved like Suzanne Vega and people like that. We'd have all the different, there'd be so much different stuff going on in the house. And then I was buying my own stuff in the 80s. I ended up buying a lot of American, British pop and rock artists, and even things like Rick Astley and stuff like that as the singer. Really? I loved his voice. Still do. But a lot of the singer-songwriters, and even the old school stuff, and the U2s and the Van Morrisons would have been. Sorry.
That's all right.
Would have been sort of what I was into, and then I heard Paul Brady, and that sort of set me on another track, because I could hear his sort of local influence, the local vibe, and his voice, and the folk vibe, and I could say, wow, this is a guy who's from Strabane, from the local area, I suppose, who went and done it, and I just fell in love with his music more than anything, And the first song I remember hearing from him that really took me back was Nothing But the Same Old Story, one of his older, those earlier ones, but and ever since that, I've been a huge fan of his. I love American guy called John Hyatt. Not a lot of maybe people here. He wouldn't be a household name here, but he has a band called Little Village. Had a super band with Ry Cooder and Nick Lowe, Jim Keltner and drums. So users will get it, but I haven't really found anybody as good as him, in my opinion, with melody and with lyricists and lyrics. And I love his voice. He's got this voice that comes through the air, and just hits you here, and I just love him. So yeah, I mean, a lot of Irish, a lot of singer-songwriters, and just good singers, and rockers as well.
Yeah.
The rockers, of our time. those bands that were doing it, big melodies. I like the big melodies. I like the big 80s melodies as well. The big hits, and yeah.
It's a lot, covering a lot. Mickey Joe, can you just move your phone slightly? I think maybe when you pressed it or something, that the mic is covered, possibly.
What it is, yeah.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. I think we're back, are we?
Not any better? Nope.
It seems to where it was great. It was all right, and then when I did something came through, and then it kind of knocked it off.
Yeah, just knocked it off, but I didn't. Let me just see if I can. So I'll just go into the settings so I can see if I can get the
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about that.
volume or something. Let's see. The sound.
It's these bloody these technology things are just always causing problems, I think. Even if you want to make a show, even if you can't get that, you can, if you wanted to kind of go out of the Zoom and come back in, it might help.
You want to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, you can give it a try there. I'll keep the show rolling. I just want to mention actually, so to the people who were listening to Eva on there a couple of weeks ago, Eva was said she'd come to her first jiu-jitsu session with me. If I went to her gig in May, I went to that, Eva came to the jiu-jitsu last night. So she has covered her part of the bargain, and I will cover mine in May when she's gigging. I don't know where she's gigging yet, actually. It might be, hopefully it's at Lawn, because it'd be handy for me, not being a driver. it would help a lot. But is Mickey Joe, are you still in there now? Mickey Joe's kind of with the chat. But yeah, so we're always a week and a half ahead. I should say that as well. Actually, I'm going to let Mickey Joe back in. I was going to say we're always a week and a half ahead of schedule. So when I'm referencing things, I might be a little bit out. So I've admitted Mickey Joe back in. So hopefully the sound will come back on that side. Where are we? These Zoom things are to your head in. But yeah, so I'm a little bit out with the references and stuff like that. So Mickey Joe, are you back? We're connecting to audio on this.
How's it going?
Oh yes, that's way better.
Is that it? Good. Okay.
When we're back. I wanted to ask a bit about, because we like to point out what can be good for people's mental health, and I find creativity is a big part for me. And it's, whether it's sitting down intentionally to write a song, or whether it's just sitting down to strum a few chords and see what's up. Do you find it good for your mental health?
Yeah, I suppose it does. There's a release that you get. I never ever looked at it like that. I was sitting down to help myself, sort of my mental health. I suppose it's a byproduct that it sort of does help your mental health. I suppose, if I can put it as bluntly as that. That somewhere in there, yeah, it does, because it gives you a sort of a sense of satisfaction if you create something that you really like. A sense of kind of you've achieved something.
Yeah.
For me, that's how it works. Anyway, if I've written a good song, or I think, oh God, I really like that song, and I play it a few, and when I come out of that session that I'm sitting down to write with, I just feel elated a bit. It kind of puts a bit of wind in your sails, because I think that's what I think that's my kind of purpose in life, is to perform and write songs. That's I like doing other things, but I think that's probably why I'm here. And so in that context, so when you do something that sort of relates or touches that aspect of you, and sort of feeds that aspect of you in a positive way, there's no better feeling. So I guess it's sort of like it releases some sort of endorphins in your brain, or in your mind. I don't know what it is exactly. I suppose there's a scientific term of it as well, possibly. And it lifts your mood and makes you just feel better. So I guess I'm saying is that the positivity, or the mental health side of it, is a sort of a byproduct. It's never ever something I sit down and go, oh Jesus, I'm feeling really stressed, and I'm I enjoy a song, but that'll happen sort of, oh God, yeah, that's my place to go to, sort of. Yeah, absolutely. I think it helps any sort of form of creativity, or like, it's like that, or like exercise, I think, or something where you have your own space and your own time, and where you feel like you've achieved something. I think
Yeah.
that's good. I think that's good for your mental health. Be it that you walk around the town or walk around the block and come back and feel okay, how you go, feel a bit better. And
I find
it's something as simple as that, but it's important.
No, and I think there's the sense of self-worth as well, for creatives who may be struggling with their mental health. And I do think if they can find that, I think it is. Could I tell you a little story, Mickey Joe, if you don't mind? Yes. Okay. So I'm 2004 or 5, I'm working in a clean room in a pharmaceutical company. And there's this song keeps coming on the radio, and I'm kind of going, I'm hearing it, but there's a lot of noise, there's machines going, beeps going, all the kind of all those kind of things. I keep hearing the song on the radio, and I keep missing who it's by. Then I realize it's by yourself. And it's called "Sound Is the Summer," right?
The summer, yeah.
Now let me just put this, because I just want to say this. That was one of the best songs of that year. Okay.
Thank you.
I was telling someone about this last night. Obviously they mentioned We've Got the World.
Yeah.
But I was talking about "Sound of the Summer" and saying, right, go back and go onto YouTube, and the video's up there. Stick it on and listen to that song. It's a brilliant song. I wanted to be on Apple Music so I can have it on my earphones instead of it just having to go into YouTube. And I don't know why it's not. And look, it's not your fault, Mickey Joe. I'm not blaming you by any way. But "Sound of the Summer" is an absolutely brilliant song that needs to be revived.
Yeah, it's something that we've thought about. We did a video for it at the time as well, and it is on YouTube there and stuff.
Yeah.
But, it's probably not on some of the other places.
Yeah.
That's probably a little bit of reluctance in myself to let some of the stuff go up there. We are looking at doing packages with Spotify and these different things at the minute, sort of, so I can get my back catalog, a lot of the stuff out there again, out in that, because you spend your time releasing albums and going to do tours, and then you realize that the physical albums, then you realize that really, now everything it's all online. I have a good bit of stuff there, but there are things like that probably need to revisit. And it's just really nice to hear. I love that song. That song it's inspired by Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. I watched his documentary, A Beautiful Dreamer, I think it's called. I was just so inspired by it and by him, and how music was his solace and his place to go, that I literally lifted the guitar and went upstairs and wrote that song in one go, kind of,
Really, yeah.
It was one of those ones that just come in. I think you can hear that when you listen to it. It's just something that came, and I went back maybe and done a little bit more of it, but really and truly I had the song written sort of in an hour or 45 minutes or something like that. It was quite quick. I just felt so inspired by him, so so it's kind of my ode to Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys, and that vibe of music that I'm trying to tap into that vibe. As you can imagine, it's up tempo and it's kind of like summery, and obviously it's, so that's exactly what I was trying to create, thinking, my God, look at this really magical, happy form of music that they gave to the world and made so many people feel. I was just trying to tap into that. See, could I write a happy song for the summer? And that was it. And with Brian in mind, but talking about his mental health, it actually gets into I'm a little bit crazy. Can you save me, Dr. Lundy, is the opening lines, and that was their Dr. Lundy, whatever way. That was the guy who had him psychotically sort of in his grasp, and was keeping him was giving him medication to keep him sort of medicated, but keep him also suppressed. He suppressed him a lot at that time. Yeah, it was very sinister story at that time. But he managed to get through it and come out of it, and that's the songs for him. Yeah,
it's like if you think of a lot of the Beach Boys songs, particularly their early songs, I guess, leading up to Pet Sounds and maybe Smile, but it's the idea of being able to capture summer in a song. And I don't, like, I've written a few songs, but like, I don't think that's an easy thing to do, to capture summer in a song, because I mean, you can try and be happy and make it flowery and stuff. Shiny Happy People is a very happy song, but I don't think of summer when I hear it. And it's not like, it doesn't have to be. I know summer is in the title, "Sound of Summer." I get that, but the chorus in that particular song sounds very summery. And now when you're talking about the Beach Boys, I can see the connection with it. It's funny. I was I was hearing kind of different things in the song. I don't like comparing. I wouldn't like to compare your songs with, oh, it sounds like this band and this band, because it's not really about that. It's about the song in itself. But that capturing of the summer, I think, is really there, and it suits for the season. And another thing about those kind of songs, if you are in the depths of winter when it's grey and raining, if you put those songs on, they do give you a little bit of a lift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, that's the intention. I worked with that song to probably what we were trying to create was a vibe, and Rory Gallagher, who's known as Rory in the Island nowadays. They had a band called the Revs back in the sort of early 2000s. A really good Irish band, 3-piece Donegal Irish rock and original rock band, and I used Rory and Michael Downs, and basically the Revs band. So they were that kind of I suppose happy pop kind of stuff, or kind of uplifting kind of pop stuff they would have done. So I remember with the same manager, so they kind of helped me to record it, and Rory kind of co-produced it with me, and and done a lot of the high BV kind of things as well. We done a lot of tricky studio tricks for the recording, which was really nice, and the breakdown for the kind of try to create the vibe of a beach, and stuff. Yeah. So little things going on, and so it was really nice. A guy called Paul Brady played guitar on it, and we had 12-string acoustic guitars on it, things like that, just that were zingy, that were in keeping kind of what's that kind of Beach Boysy kind of thing, trying to tap in there somewhere. So we I managed to get a nice a guy called Gareth Mannix mixed it for us, so I was kind of like, this is for radio, I just wanted to sound happy for radio, and he got the he got the vibe.
It worked, and I was in that job in a clean room where obviously it's very boring. When that song came on the radio, I was thrilled because I really loved it, honestly. So I don't want to get too nerdy about the song, because I definitely could, because I could no problem, and the drum beat in the verses is brilliant.
It's a nice beat.
It's great. Yeah, it's such a good beat. But everybody go to YouTube and look up Mickey Joe's song "Sound of the Summer." It's great. So you mentioned Paul Brady as an influence. How was it collaborating with the man himself?
It's kind of like one of those things that happened quite not by accident. I don't know. It was, but it kind of came out of the blue, and it was kind of, for me, one of those kind of pinch me moments. And to me, it's kind of like Brady is kind of like the Irish Dylan, if I can put it like that, without being too. Hopefully, that doesn't sound too crass, but. I don't think we've ever had anybody quite write songs like him in this country that has been so successful as well in other parts of the world, with people covering his songs and whatnot. And he's never really written songs for anybody else as such. He's not that type of writer, but he just writes songs that people really like to cover.
Yeah.
There's so many. Santana, Phil Collins, Tina Turner. You can look at some of the interpretations.
Yourself, of course.
Myself, yeah, but I just I got to know him sort of in the scene in Dublin, a few things, and I suppose he was maybe aware of me. I was aware of him, but I recorded The Island for the album that I did for Sony, because it was one of the songs that I did on Eurostar, and it went really well. So when we were picking a few songs for the albums, 6 or 7 of my own, and then we had a few covers, and that was one of them. And so, I suppose he was aware of what I was doing, them kind of things. And then I had met him a few times at a few things, and then he invited me to his 60th party a few years back. It was one of those things. He was a bit of a station down in Donegal. He was back home, and then I kept in touch, and I sent him a little idea of a song that I had for. We were talking about the Irish football team at the time, and they didn't qualify for the Europeans, whatever it was, the World Championships, whatever it was, because of that Henri handball thing.
Oh yeah.
But Shay Given is from Lifford, and it went past Shay, and I could feel his pain, and was like, "This look." I know Shay, I grew up with him, and he's my same age or around. He's a bit younger, but. And I remember talking, and we were kind of both disgusted that this had happened, to one of our own.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, that must have been the worst thing for Shay, because he was the guy who's seen him do it, above everybody else. and it was really the thing that allowed us, that put us out of the competition. We didn't get because of that handball. It was really, so I remember we had this conversation, and then I can't remember, we shared a little idea of this thing, and he liked it. I shared it with him, and then he wrote more, and we kept sharing it back. And then we just got together for a bit of fun and recorded the song, and then we did a video for it and released it under an alias called The Substitutes, and then we did another collaboration for The Gathering at the time in 2013. A song we wrote, we were kind of commissioned to write that, if you like. Myself and Paul and an American singer-songwriter called John Conn. We were trying to get it was about connecting with the American diaspora in Ireland, and kind of trying to encourage them to come home, the whole gathering. So it was a song to try to do that.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it's a lovely song. We gathered up a lot of local Donegal musicians and stuff, and we sort of done a gathering of a lot of people in the studio, and but yeah, so it was nice just to write that, and there was as well. So just to get to work with him and get inside his head a wee bit and see how he operates. And but I'm still in awe of him, and they never meet your heroes, but that wasn't the case.
Isn't that such a beautiful thing? Because I mean, one thing most people don't get to meet their heroes. Another thing is when they do meet them, they can often be let down. But the fact that you not only got to meet him, collaborate with him, and really like him and really get on with him, I think it's a really nice thing. And collaborate in a positive way, in making good music, and that's what you're about, and that's what Paul Brady's about. It makes sense. We're in my family, massive Paul Brady fans. They've seen him live and stuff. He's obviously fantastic singer-songwriter. When it comes to covers, actually, I would say that your vocal performance on the island is possibly your best when I'm talking about your cover songs, really.
Yeah, it's one that I kind of cover a bit, and people ask for it again. I sometimes forget about it, and sometimes so you get caught up in your own thing a lot, and you're doing, but it's nice every so often, people will ask for that song. There's a few of them that they still ask for, Teenage Kicks, I do a version of that as well.
Of course.
That. So people like that. There's a few. The island seems to always come up, and I do a very simplistic version of it, to be honest, on acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
In terms of it's quite complex piano progression.
Yeah.
If you were to do it, but I do like an acoustic guitar kind of version. I do a lot of Brady songs, so I've done a lot over the years. So so it's just one of those ones that people really like. I try and nail it when I do it. I try and do it as best I can.
Of course, yeah, and I think your vocal performance is brilliant on it. How you also got to work with Finbar Fiore, another absolute legend.
Yes, Finbar is it was I recorded an album in the States, in Chicago in 2012. We released it here in 2012, and the producer John Conran came over, who ended up writing, I was chatting about 2013 was it the Brady song. That was probably the connection. But I had a song called Practical that I let a friend of mine, Francie, call me my friend again, I'm talking to you about, who helped me earlier on with the We've Got the World scenario. Francie had heard it. I've been playing him some stuff. I've been bouncing some things off people to see what to release, and I said, I think I'll release this as a single. And I was chatting to Francie, and Francie said, "Oh man, you have to let Finbar hear this," because I said, I think Finbar would like to do. You never know, he might like to do some banjo or something on this. And I kind of had it mixed and finished, but he heard it and he really liked it. So I said, "Oh, it'd be wonderful to have him do something on it." So we took the stuff from America and we went to a studio in Dublin, and we recorded parts with Finbar, and banjo and a few other little bits, and he just put a twist on it that wasn't there before. It brought it to another place, and it was just fantastic to have it. So it was just we had a couple of days, picked him up, and we went to the studio, and we just had fun with it, and he just he was really professional about it, and so cool about it. It was really nice. He just really liked the song. He brought me in. He said, "This is what I'm thinking," and it was so just one of those things that kind of happened.
Just again, it seems to be the story since 2002 for you, where it's just one of those things that kind of happened, and it's all been like a brilliant journey musically. You've also worked. I know you released a single for the Peter McVerry Trust. Why did you decide to choose that charity?
Well, it's a charity, I think, that's close to everyone's heart, and I think Peter McVerry is one of the walking kind of sort of saints. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to put it like that, he's had such a great legacy of just helping. He seems to have a deepness, a sense of charity and understanding, compassion that most of us don't really have. He moves to the next sort of level. And it was my manager's also quite passionate about that charity. So it was myself and Rory and the Island, Rory Gallagher, had a song, a cover that we did of Only You, the old Yazoo song. We did it a few years ago, and it started to pick up a bit of traction. So we thought, well, let's try and do it for charity and create a bit of an awareness as well. So it was nice because we were able to talk about the charity when we were going around, and just remind people to. I mean, singles are weird these days because you don't make a huge amount of money on the singles. What it was more about was trying to just get the opportunity to talk to people about Peter McVerry and just remind them to try and donate or to give around. It was around Christmas time and all those kind of things. So
yeah,
and he just does. The Peter McVerry Trust, they do phenomenal work when you see what they do. Taking old buildings that are derelict and doing whole refurbs and giving people a whole new lease of life. Giving them a key to a new place, and it's it's a phenomenal thing to be able to do, and they've done it for so many people over the years, so many families, and helped just get them back on on their feet, and give you give people that little push up, and you give them a nice surrounding, a place to live in, and a warm bed to sleep in, and a cozy place to be in, and a nice place environment to grow up in and live in. It has so many positive knock-on effects, in their lives. It helps them to aspire to better things. I think that's how I see it.
Yeah,
and maybe a simplistic way, but I think it works. It taps into somewhere that that in our psyche that well, okay, I have a chance. It's an opportunity, a huge opportunity, and that's just it's a phenomenal thing to be able to do. They do amazing work.
Absolutely. And do you know what I will say? Another thing, one thing you pointed out obviously was like just giving the, pointing out to people that this charity is here, that they may not have heard of it. It's very important. It's not something that we've got a full episode on yet in the podcast, but it's something I'd be very interested in getting on, where we do talk about the effect of homelessness and the housing crisis on people's mental health, because I can't imagine what it's like in those situations.
Absolutely.
And
it's bizarre, to think that I'm very fortunate. We're very fortunate in our lives that we have, a good social structure around us, in terms of like, parents and grandparents and all them kind of things that, that help, if the shit hits the fan, that, there are people there to pull you out of the hole, So I've always had that in my life. I'm not saying that, I had a silver spoon in my, far from it, but there's always people there that are able to help us out, and you like to think that you helped a few people along the way as well. But a lot of people just don't have that, and just don't have that in life, and that's where Peter McVerry and people like him and their charities step in and are able to help. So
yeah, of course. So going forward, then, in the looking into the future, into the crystal ball and all that. Gigging is obviously back. It was a big thing coming back for yourself, I would imagine, and for all working musicians out there. What are the plans going forward with regards to gigging and maybe releasing newer material, stuff like that?
Well, I'm trying to release. I really want to release another album this year. I haven't released an album in a long time, and I've been doing a lot of these projects with like Paul Brady and other people, and singles and stuff like that, and. But it's sort of maybe a distraction, and I've nearly, it's no one's fault but my own, but it can become a distraction from actually just putting out your own album and stuff like that. And so that's my main objective this year, is that I have a lot of new stuff written, but it's just to try and find a way now to try and figure out the best 10, 12 of those and put them on an album. So I'm just working away on that, and it's I'm trying to over COVID and over the last few years, I suppose there've been a lot of different things that I've been doing musically. So I'm trying to get them finished and get to a point where I can just concentrate on my own music. I'm doing an album with an American guy called Jack Tempchin at the minute. We're near the end of that process. Myself and a guy called Rob Burke, who I got to know through Rob. He's written songs for the Eagles, Peaceful, Easy Feeling, and these songs. And I just got to know Jack, and he was very good. He asked us to produce. He heard we'd done a production of a couple of things, and he really liked them. And he asked us to produce an album of the songs. And there's a lot of these old demos that he had with Glenn Frey and a lot of people like that. It was just lovely to be able to access these things that hadn't seen the light of day. So we picked out 10 that we really liked. We thought we could improve or bring our production to them or whatever. So we're doing that, and that has been taking up a lot of my brain space the last little while, over COVID and stuff. That kind of screwed us up a little bit, but so that and a few other bits and pieces. But we're kind of coming to the end of that, and I'm also writing away. So I just want to try and get an album out this year and get some things out and to radio and those type of things.
Yeah.
Just get the gigs coming in. Things are starting to open up a little bit, and there's gigs coming in, but the floodgates haven't opened or anything. It's not as if. So it's going to take a little time, and we're just kind of trying to put a strategy together for the year, and try and figure out what to do now. So let's just see what's opening up and who's up for it. So it's all a bit bitty at the minute. But
I understand. I'm not going to hold you to this, but it is on record on this podcast. All right. But so now this is even more important because I know you have relations here. A gig in Athlone would be very welcome, I think.
Oh, well, I'd love to. I'd love to do a gig. The last one I did was for the IT down there. Yeah, it's a good few years ago now. Well, it's I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago. I just did a student union gig, but that was a student union gig.
yeah. That's say no more.
They can be. It was good fun, but it was
bit messy. I would imagine.
It wasn't for the faint-hearted.
If you do come though, you have to play Sound of the Summer. I mean, that has to be on the set list.
It always is. Yeah, even on Christmas, even around Christmas, I still stick.
Listen, Mickey Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm so glad. I want to thank Swerve as well for helping us out to get it together, because I was really looking forward to this, and I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Very great to talk to you, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep flying the flag. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to seeing the edit.
There will be no edit, Mickey Joe. But listen, Mickey Joe.
Don't bother.
Don't bother. Leave it. Listen, Mickey Joe, can you hang on for me just for 1 minute? I'll finish it out, take a quick photo, and we'll go on our way. Is that right?
Cool.
You're a star. Thank you very much. All right, that was actually not. I didn't mean that in the pun kind of way. You're a star.
That was all the time. It's okay.
I was waiting for that. The whole hour. Right. Listen, I also want to thank John for all the work he's done for me with putting the podcast out. Nathan for the promotion. I want to thank everybody. Speaking of families and communities, I wouldn't do this without my mom, my dad, my granddad, Jer, Calvin for what they did. Subscribe to our YouTube or on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and you can listen to this on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, etc. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for listening. And once again, Mickey Joe, thank you very much.
Pleasure. No bother.
And everybody else, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.